Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Another podcast, Inside Polling. Appreciate you joining me today. Before we get started with all the information, I want to thank you first. We broke all the different records last night on Twitter and X of listeners. I also want to thank you on YouTube for catching up. I think we had a couple hundred listeners or watch viewers on YouTube, and without even advertising or marketing that on a brand new channel. And I think on Twitter we did 17,000 last night alone. So I do want to thank you for doing that and sharing and subscribing and throwing your comments in there, and we welcome all that. Yesterday we did 270 to win, which we looked at all the electoral votes, the map. We looked at all the different scenarios, played some map games, shuffling who needs to win what, who could win this. Today we're going to do it a little differently. I'm going to update you on the Harris-Trump polls. I'm going to update you on the battleground states, but we're going to hit the Senate real quickly. I think we're looking at 2, 3, 4 tight races in the Senate. And of course, the Republicans need 2 to try to flip it back to them. So we'll take a look at that. I'll probably give you a top 10, and we'll work our way back on those. So let's look at Harris and Trump first. We did have 3 national polls that came out since the last time we chatted. I've got a Marquette poll, a Marist poll, and a Fox poll. So more traditional polls than what we discussed yesterday. By the way, as we talk about that, we mentioned on the show, it got a lot of news. A lot of people have analyzed it. Nate Silver looked at it and did an analysis on his show, which was very interesting. He basically looked at this. Yes, there's been a lot of Republican polls, a lot of right-leaning polls. Are the Republicans playing, I don't want to call it a game, are they pushing Republican polls to make it seem like they're leading? And will that work or not work? Right or wrong or different? Are the polls right or wrong? We don't know. I just give you the polls, and that's my job. But when he did his analysis, he basically said, let's pull out all the right-leaning polls, and where does that take us? It leaves us with, and that's not fair to take them all out, because obviously there's left-leaning polls too. But it does leave us with about a 1% add-on for Harris. So right now we were at 1.6% yesterday on Real Clear. It'd be about 2.6. And you say, well, 1% is not going to matter, but it does. Right? We've been discussing how 1% in the popular vote just feeds its way down to the states. So could that be an issue? We don't know. We're going to continue to look at it. And remember, the right-leaning polls can only show Trump leading, right? So it can't continue to grow. We're not going to have like a 10% win in North Carolina by Trump or Michigan. If they're pushing polls, let's just say they are, and they're showing Trump leading by 1, can they show Trump by 4 in Michigan? I mean, they're going to look like jokers after the election. So they have to be careful too. And I never want to accuse any pollsters of playing games, but it has been something out there that the Democrats have been discussing. I think it's important to talk about. And we'll just continue to watch it, and I'll keep on pumping you the polls. So Trump versus Harris, I got the 3 polls. I got Marist, Marquette, and Fox. The reason why I mentioned that is there are 3 traditional polls. Let's look at where they were and what they are now. First of all, Marist has not done a national poll before, and they have Harris +5. That's a great poll for the vice president. Harris +5. Marquette, who had Harris +4, now has it as a tie nationally. That's a 4-point swing for Trump. So it does continue what we've been seeing, which is the push towards Trump on a national level and a state level. Fox, who who has a very good polling company, CNN, just imagine that CNN and Fox actually both have good 2 polling companies, and fair and respected on both sides. But they had Harris +2 before, and now they have Trump +2. That's a 4-point swing. I don't believe it, and when I say I don't believe it, I don't think Trump is leading 2 percentage points nationally. And I wouldn't say because it's Fox they're doing that. This is not a group that would ever play a game on the polls. But I wanted to show you that's another 4-point swing. So we had Marist, unknown. They're showing Harris +5. Marquette had a 4-point swing to Trump. Fox had a 4-point swing to Trump. So interesting to note. We're going to follow that tomorrow as we go. Let's go to some battleground states. I've got North Carolina, Georgia, New Hampshire. I'm just going to throw in there real quick. Pennsylvania and Michigan. Let's start with New Hampshire, which really doesn't matter anymore. Used to be a huge battleground state. No longer. People from Massachusetts flocking to live in New Hampshire for taxes and every other purpose. We have one poll there from UMass, which has us at Harris +9. Okay. So that's out of reach for the Republicans there, but I just wanted to throw that to you. Michigan had Mitchell Research, never had a poll before. They're showing Trump with a lead of 1 in Michigan. Okay. That does match about where we are on the polls, on the averages. Pennsylvania, we had UMass there, and this is another issue I have with pollsters. You know my issue with Quinnipiac, but here's my issue with here's UMass, good polling place, good polling company, but their polling numbers, the dates on this is 10/2, October 2nd to October 9th. I mean, what's it, the 17th today? I mean, so they're 8 days late from the end of their poll, and they're 15 days late to the beginning of their poll. This is old data. We'll put it in, of course, because it's not that old. But this is old data. This is a week old data. They're showing they had Harris +2 in Pennsylvania before. This is UMass who did this poll. And they had Harris +2, and now it's Harris +1. A Trump gain by 1 by UMass. Again, slightly old data, at least a week old. Let's go to Georgia, Quinnipiac. All right, here we go. My buddies over at Quinnipiac, right? You know all about that, how I feel about them. They had Trump +5. They have Trump +6. Trump's not winning Georgia by 6 points, but it's, again, another movement by Trump by 1 point in Georgia by a traditional polling company. North Carolina by Quinnipiac again. Before, had Trump by 1. What do you think the number is? Anybody take a wild guess what they came up with? So Trump by 1. I'm sorry, Trump by by 1 is now Harris +3 in North Carolina. So Quinnipiac again, 4-point swing. Trump 1 to Harris 3. It's tough to imagine. Yes, Georgia and North Carolina are not next to each other, but they're not far from each other in the same region. Southeast, if you want to call North Carolina that. Mid-East. I mean, they're not that far away from each other. Could it be possible that Quinnipiac has Trump up by 6 in Georgia and down by 3 in North Carolina? That's not happening. So right there's my issue with Quinnipiac. Is it possible in North Carolina that because of the storms, because of the issues they have, and the problems there post hurricane and the devastation, could there be some changing of polling numbers there? Sure. And Harris is working hard in North Carolina. Is why? If you watched my podcast yesterday, tuned it in, you'll see North Carolina. Trump has to have North Carolina to win. So Quinnipiac had it as Trump +1, now as Harris +4. It's a 4-point swing for Harris. Great news for Harris in that poll. Let's take you, now that we're done with the battlegrounds, I'm just going to go through the averages of where we are in each state. Let me give you the average nationally. The average nationally right now is 1.5% for Harris. 1.5% for Harris probably will not get it done. Remember, the popular vote versus the electoral vote. And you've heard me say 1,000 times, Harris probably needs to be in that 2.3, 2.5, 2.7, 3% range. She has to be to win. Her at 1.5, but again, we take out the Republican polls, it jumps to 2.5, but then we're playing games. That's why we just throw everything in the blender and we spit it out. Let's go through each individual states who's leading when we take the aggregate and the averages of all the polls. Pennsylvania, Trump by 0.5%. North Carolina, Trump by 1%. Georgia, Trump by 1%. Arizona, Trump by 1%. Wisconsin, Harris by 0.3%. Michigan, Trump by 1%. Nevada, Trump by 0.5%. So still, we are somewhere between 0.3 and 1.2% for all of these battleground. Four battleground states are under basically 1%. Unbelievable. Okay, I promised you Senate races. I'm going to take you through it. We're going to try to make it nice and quick. And I'm going to take you to the worst case scenario first, meaning the one that's probably not probable. Okay, so let's start with Maryland. It's probably one that you may not know about. Larry Hogan, who's the governor of Maryland, a Republican. And remember, Maryland, Biden won by what, 33 points? I mean, Biden won by 33 points, probably his biggest number in Maryland. Senator Ben Cardin's leaving. The Democrat, of course, is leaving. Angela Asbrooks is taking on Larry Hogan, who's moving from the governor after 2 terms of being the governor to take on the Senate race here. This race was interesting in the polls because it was something where Hogan was leading all of the polls when they first got started. But then the Democrat has solidified, and let's see if I have a few polls here. I do. I've got a couple polls for you in Maryland. It is, and again, Hogan has no lead here at all through any of this. So also Brooks has a lead of 5, 7, 15, 11, and most recently, 11 was the last one. That averages out to 9.5% lead. So I bring up Maryland just because Hogan had a lead there early, well respected on both sides of the aisle, a moderate Republican doing well, and a Democrat maybe close to the number 1 Democrat state in the country. Hey, if he could lose by 7, 8, 9% and Harris wins by 30%, that's pretty good, but probably not going to be a takeover by the Republicans there. Texas, we're going to talk about again. This comes up every time Cruz runs. Remember last time we had O'Rourke run against Cruz. It was what a great race that was. We thought O'Rourke was going to be possibly taken out. Won by 3 percentage points. That's in, what was that, 2018? So Cruz is running against Colin Allred there. And the polling, let's take a peek at that real quick. Again, Cruz in the lead on all of these numbers. We've got Cruz +3, Cruz 4, 4, 5, and 4. That leaves Cruz a 4-point lead. Something devastating would have to happen for Cruz to lose that race, but not well liked on both sides of the aisle. Not well liked, I'm sure, by some Republicans that are listening to this right now. But still, holds on to that solid 4-point lead. And I think we're going to see that number 4 points quite a bit. But an option for the Democrats to possibly grab a seat there. All the rest, by the way, as we move into the top 8, are all Democrats trying to hold on to the seat. So this is the term where the Dems are holding the seats, the Republicans are trying to steal the seats. Okay, so let's go to Nevada, number 8 on our list. We got Jackie Rosen versus Sam Brown, Senator Rosen there, a Democrat. Let me pull up some of the stats here. So we have, again, Rosen leading every single poll that's been out there. What do we have? 5 polls. We've got Rosen 6, Rosen 7, Rosen 13, Rosen 8, and Rosen 5. Okay, that leaves Rosen a lead of around 6 points. Okay, so that right there, Nevada, very difficult. Thought it was going to be an option for Republicans to make a run at this seat. Having a hard time catching any ground on this. On the Dem, they're doing very well. Democrat doing very well there. 5-6 point lead, easy. Let's go to Arizona. Arizona, a brutal state for Republicans. Brutal state for Republicans, right? Used to always be Republicans. Lost both Senate seats, now lost the governorship, and now put up Kari Lake. Kari Lake. I don't care if you're a Republican right now. And you could be a MAGA, you could be a far right. Wrong candidate to win in a state where you have a possibility of winning. You need you don't have to have a moderate Republican, but you cannot have an ultra conservative there. It's just not going to play. I think if the Republicans haven't learned yet, you cannot put an ultra conservative up in these states that are borderline independent states now. Kari Lake just collapses with the poll numbers. Everyone thinks it's going to be an opportunity there. Kyrsten Sinema, who was a Democrat, moved to become an independent, leaves an open seat. And that's where Kari Lake, the Republican, is taking on Ruben Gallego there. And let's pull up some stats there. Now, listen to these numbers, right? You think in Arizona, Trump's got to have Arizona, right? Well, here's what your senator or your senator candidate is doing. Gallego has a lead in every single poll. 11, 7, 13, 10, 7, 7, 7, and 4. Right? This leaves Lake with a 6.5 to 7% deficit. Devastating for Arizona. Arizona, again, putting up the wrong candidate. Continue to do that. You'd think someone would learn a lesson in Arizona. Wisconsin, 6th on our list. Okay. This is Tammy Baldwin running for a 3rd term. Wisconsin, we've talked about it yesterday. You would think has the demographics for a Trump win there. Did win in 16, lost in 20. So let's look at Tammy's taking on Eric Hufty, the Republican. Again, does this sound like a common theme? The Democrat leading in every single poll. I'll give you the numbers. Baldwin by 2, Baldwin by 2, Baldwin by 2, Baldwin by 7, Baldwin by 4. Gets a little interesting here. Baldwin by 1. Insider advantage is the poll, right-leaning. The Hill and Emerson has the last poll out, Baldwin by 4. That leaves us with a Wisconsin lead for Baldwin at about 3 percentage points. So we know that Trump won there in 16, lost there in 20, has struggled to gain footing in Wisconsin. It's probably, out of all the battleground states, the one he's having the hardest time with. Surprising with the demographics in Wisconsin. But that is what's happening there. So that's number 6. As we move to number 5, we're going to go to Pennsylvania next. So Pennsylvania. We got Bob Casey running for a 4th term versus Dave McCormick. So is this going to sound familiar? You would think, right? Now, Pennsylvania, who used to have a Republican senator, no longer. Basically run by Democrats, the Senate, the governor, Shapiro there, who I believe Harris should have picked as the governor. Got caught up in he's Jewish and this and that. And I mean, wrong move. Got caught in the hot topic there in the moment that didn't pay off later on. If she loses this election and loses Pennsylvania, look at this choice by the vice president, who has not helped her at all and only hurt her. Now, just to jump off the topic, Vance, while get crushed by the press as soon as he comes out, has found his footing. Has it helped Trump? Ever since that VP debate, it's been a one-way track in the polls. Did that matter? Usually it doesn't. But we'll just leave it as that, as this Harris pick looms large, as we talked about yesterday, in Nevada and Arizona. Walz does not help her at all. She doesn't, and by the way, she's not strong in Arizona and Nevada. So where does Walz help her? Certainly not in Pennsylvania. Now, the senator there, Senator Casey, going against McCormick, here's the numbers. Casey 4, Casey 4, Casey 2, 7, 2, 8, 4, 2, 4, 2, and 9 in the latest poll. That's a Casey 3.8, 4-point win there in the polls so far. So far, we don't have anything that's teetering. Trump would need to win Pennsylvania by 4 points. 4 points to try to get McCormick across the line would be my view. And no Republican can win Pennsylvania by 4 points. So, but we'll see. We'll see. It made our list. All right, we got top 4. Michigan. So Alyssa Slotkin, who's a representative, is going up against Mike Rogers, who's also a congressman. Debbie Stabenow is leaving, who is a Democrat. This is an open seat. Now, we know Biden won this state by about 2 percentage points. So let's go to Michigan. Do you know how many polls Slotkin, the Democrat, is losing in Michigan Senate race? None. You ready? Slotkin by 4. I'm sorry, Slotkin by 7. Tie. Slotkin by 4. By 5. a tie. Slotkin by 1, 5, 5, 3, and 4. That leaves Slotkin an advantage of around 2.5% in Michigan. So while we're showing Trump leading by 1 in Michigan, let me get the exact one. Yeah, it's 1.0 on the button. The senator is leading by 2.5%. Trump would probably need to win this state by 3 percentage points to try to push this over. This is going to be tough, but let's look at the last couple polls. The last couple were 5, 3, and 4. So again, it's tough to make up that percentage. Now we get interesting. Now we get really interesting. To me, this next one, if I was watching one race, this is the one I'd be watching. I mean, if I'm an independent voter and, and it doesn't really matter who wins or who doesn't on the presidential, if you love politics, this Ohio race, while getting no press at all, is fascinating. Senator Sherrod Brown going for a 4th term, going against Bernie Moreno. Now, let's talk about Ohio here for a second. It's important. No one talks about this. Trump's won by 8 and 16, 8 and 20. Will probably win by, he'll probably need 9 if he's going to win nationally. He may need 9%. Let's just say 8 points. The polling in Ohio always underestimates Trump a little bit. I don't know why. But in 16, which, of course, for those of you who are not super old like me, may not know that if you won Ohio, you won the president's race back in the old days. It was a huge battleground. You could not win without winning Ohio, especially as a Republican. So it's now just opened up as a Republican state, similar to Florida. Now, is that Republican or is that more of just Trump being a perfect candidate for the Ohio voter? We don't know that yet until Trump's out of politics and it's 4 years from now, and different people are running. So we won't know about the Ohios and the Floridas and the North Carolinas and the Arizonas until then. But this race, and the reason why I mention it is I only have 4 polls. And Sherrod Brown, the senator, September 28th, the New York Times came out, Brown +4. Bowling Green, who's in Ohio, October 3rd, has Brown +4. Marist on October 10th came out, Brown +2. Washington Post on October 10th has Brown +1. So what's our average there? 2, 2.5, 2.3, whatever the number is there. But remember, in 16, they showed Hillary being tied. A lot of polls in Ohio. In 20, they thought during the last week, oh my gosh, Ohio's back in play. It looks like it's only a 2-point victory for Trump, a 1-point victory in Trump, or even a tie in some of the polls. Let's not mention Quinnipiac here. So with that, if Trump does win by 8%, and these polls on the Senate side are a little underestimated for Republicans, this race could get interesting. So we're showing a 2.3 lead by Senator Sherrod Brown. Let's watch this one. I need more polls on this. We need more polls on Ohio. Now, let's go to Montana, number 2 on our list. You got Democrat Senator Tester, who's going for, is this a common theme? 4th term. A lot of 4th term senators under a lot of heat here. Trump won this state by 17 points. Will probably win it by, well, let's put it this way. If he wins it by 15, he probably loses nationally. But if he extends the lead to 18, 19, that would look good for him. But it's 17 points. Senator Tester, a Democrat in Montana, wins this race with these amount of Republicans. Think about how good their campaign is, or the candidate is, that they put up, the Democrats have put up there with Tester, and knows how to win tight races. And here we are. A definite tight race, because this time, to Tester's bad luck, Trump's on the ticket. If Tester runs and is on a different term and it's 2 years from now, Trump's not on the ticket, he probably wins this race. But for all the Democrats who happen to be running on Trump's side, on Trump's ticket right now, gets hurt. And vice versa for some of the Republicans. Tim Sheehy, Navy SEAL, business guy, running a good campaign. And I'm just going to take you through. There's only been 2 polls. Montana's not an easy state to do polling, and there's just not a lot of information in that state when it comes to polling. I only have 2 polls. October 1st, a Remington, who's a Republican-leaning poll, has Sheehy, the Republican, leading by 8. October 10th, the New York Times comes out, Sheehy by 8. That's all we know. That's all we know. Republicans need two seats. This one, they are dumping everything into it. So are the Democrats. Democrats know we cannot lose Montana. And you cannot think, that Tesla's going to get blown out here. So this is one to seriously watch. We're not going to know this one for a long time until the voting closes late in the night. But if the Republicans are going to take the Senate, this has to happen for them. And Tester, who knows? Can he pull out another one? So we'll watch that. West Virginia with Manchin. Manchin is leaving, as you all know. Some of you love him, some of you hate him. If you're a Democrat, backstabber, this, that. But love him or hate him, if you don't respect Manchin, I don't know where you are. Think about it. Trump won this state by almost 40%. 69% Trump, Biden 30%. Right? Yeah, 40%. I mean, Manchin's winning, or was winning, as a Democratic senator in West Virginia with a 40% vote going to Trump. Now, was he going to win this time? Probably not. Did he know the numbers were stacked against him? Probably. Would I've liked to see Manchin in the race for president? Yes. I don't care who you are, Republican, Democrat, Independent. This is the kind of the candidate that we would love as a third party candidate. But anyway, I've always respected the guy because independent voter, didn't go where the president wants him to go, doesn't go Republican, doesn't go Democrat, doesn't care less, and appeals to a Republican constituent there in West Virginia. Impressive. So, will the Republicans win there? Yes. There's no polls. No polls in West Virginia. So this is an automatic win for the Republicans on 1 seat. So, just to review, I threw a lot at you. West Virginia, Montana, the Republicans are relying on. Can Tester pull it off? We don't know. Ohio, let's watch. That's the one to me. Ohio. Is Wisconsin possible? Michigan? Those are tough calls. But Ohio. Could the Republicans jump and steal all 3? I think it's possible. It would be a Democrat. They would be shocked if they lost Ohio, but it would be a surprise. But if some reason Trump pulls numbers a little bit more, even another % in Ohio or 2, it could pull. So with that, I think we're caught up in the Senate. We're caught up on the national. We're caught up on the battleground states. I read you all those percentages. Tomorrow, I think what we'll do is, why don't we dig into a poll? I'm going to grab one of these. Let's see what something will come out before I catch you tomorrow. And let's look at the insides of the poll, the demographics of the poll. Let's look where the Asians are voting, the whites are voting, the blacks are voting, the young are voting, the older are voting, the Hispanics are voting. Let's look at the whole demographics and see who's swaying where the older voters are going, the middle age, where they're going, women, men, let's look at the whole thing because I think that's going to be fascinating to take a peek at. So I will chat with you guys tomorrow, and I think we're good shape. Keep throwing the comments below if there's anything else you want me to talk about. I'm always here. Just shoot me a comment, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, guys. So listen, everybody, be well, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Okay, guys, take care.